Almighty God, we pray that you will continue to keep our city under your care, and we give you thanks for all of our city leaders. Bless our mayor, our city council, and our city employees that they may do their work in a spirit of wisdom, kindness, and justice. Lead us to be a city of peace and prosperity, as well as a blessing to the communities around us. May all business conducted at this meeting tonight contribute wisely to the common good, assist our citizens who need it most, and most of all, be to your glory. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Council members Huff.
Here.
Perkins. Here. Dougherty.
Here.
DeLucy.
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Van Camp.
Here.
Mayor Ware.
Here. We will begin this evening with our citizens' request to speak to the council. If you are here to speak to the council this evening, if you would please step forward to the podium and state your name for the record.
Good evening, Ms. Mayor. My name's Kenneth Love.
Hello.
I am a citizen taxpayer in the City of Independence. I live in Milton Estates. I was here at the last meeting. Before I start speaking, I would like to pass out. I am one short.
That's
And
okay.
I apologize. I am
We'll
one
share.
short.
Here, bring them to me and I'll, Mr. Love, are you here to speak on the same topic you were here a
Yes,
couple
ma'am.
weeks ago? Okay, then you'll be limited to 3 minutes this
Yes,
evening.
ma'am, I
Okay.
understand that. I'm well.
Okay, thank you.
Due to the city manager, I want to make sure he has one.
Okay,
And then I will let you divide it
thank you.
how you would like. And
Go ahead.
you ready, Ms. City Clerk? I'm ready. Thank you. Again, my name's Kenneth Love. Today is February the 19th, I think. I was here on the 7th requesting that the city council, city manager, someone enforce the rental ready program. The rules and regulations that were set by this department. If you're going to operate a business in the city, you must have a business license. I presented here today of 3 people that I know for fact does not have a business license. They continue to refuse to buy one. One of the persons on there actually has a warrant for his arrest still to today. Their business is being allowed to operate. Now, one of your staff that works in the rental ready program says we cannot compare a business to a business, meaning somebody that has an alcohol license and somebody that has a rental ready. That's an apple and an orange in a business. I'm sorry. Business is business. Rules, regulations that are set forth by this council should be enforced. If these property owners do not want to follow the rules and regulations, then they need to stop renting their properties. And they need to be closed. These businesses need to be shut down. I am not calling out any councilman. My District 3 that I live in is one of the districts that has the rental ready program where the owner says he don't care. Oh, because he moved out of state. I believe it's District 1 that is over in the Fairmont district. There's an out-of-state investor there that I brought to this council a long time ago over trash.
1 minute, mister.
Yes, ma'am. 1 minute with trash that they refused to pick up. Me and my wife picked up this trash. Me and my wife paid to ship it to the state of Utah and empty in this man's yard because he didn't care about my city that I live in and that I pay taxes in. But he sure didn't like it when he had to pay somebody in Utah to pick the trash up off his yard. So I'm asking, let's stop the trash here today and close these businesses down that operate without a license. I will be back next month if the city allows them to keep operating. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Love.
Good
Hello.
evening. I'm Lois McDonald, a resident of the 3rd District of this great city. I was here recently for a study session and the presentation by J.E. Dunn representatives from that company who spoke about the proposed Justice Center. I know for a fact since 2003, when my interest in public safety was piqued, I was part of a citizens committee on public safety at that time, which was a year-long project where the members of that committee learned a lot about the needs of our community and both police, fire, and AMR. And I am very supportive of the efforts to progress along this project. I am here to express my support of this very important project and urge this council to progress with the plans, including funding, whatever that takes, every creative manner, to make sure that our public gets what they deserve, which is service to this community, and I do believe this facility will help to do so. So I appreciate your time. I know none of you can believe I can do this under 5 minutes. I just did. So thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Any other citizens wishing to speak to the council this evening? Okay, thank you very much. This takes us to our proclamation for Engineers Week 2019.
Whereas engineers provide the talents and skills necessary to analyze and solve complex problems and create the infrastructure essential for the high quality of life which citizens of Independence, Missouri enjoy. And whereas the support of an understanding and informed citizenry of Independence, Missouri is vital to the efficient planning, design, construction, and operation of the public infrastructure, which includes water, sanitary and storm sewers, streets and highways, bridges, public buildings, communications, and electricity and natural gas distribution. And whereas the health, safety, welfare, comfort, and economic vitality of this community, as well as the success of various citywide construction projects, and whereas engineers address the major technological challenges of our time, from rebuilding towns devastated by natural disasters, designing infrastructure that will take the City of Independence through the 21st century. And whereas there exists in the metropolitan Kansas City area, which includes Independence, Missouri, one of the nation's largest collection of engineering firms, of which are known and recognized worldwide as leaders in their profession. And whereas the Western chapter of the Missouri Society of Professional Engineers, in partnership with the Eastern chapter of the Kansas Society of Professional Engineers, are celebrating the 68th Annual Engineers Week through a ceremonious luncheon at the Marriott in downtown Kansas City on February 21st. And whereas the week of February 17th, 2019 has been designated worldwide as the 68th Annual National Engineers Week. Now therefore, Eileen N. Weir, Mayor of the City of Independence, Missouri, does hereby proclaim the week of February 17th, 2019 as Engineers Week in the City of Independence, Missouri, and calls upon all citizens and civic organizations to acquaint themselves with the issues involved in providing quality infrastructure and to recognize the significant contributions which our engineers make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life.
Thank you very much. Is there somebody here to receive the proclamation? Come forward, please. I didn't see you there. Oh, we got a button?
I got that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You, a button for you.
Thanks so much.
She needs to take your picture, though. You have to turn
Yeah. Put her button on first.
Okay.
Yeah, I can pass them out. Oh, you got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Okay. This takes us to the consent agenda. Mayor Pro Tem?
Mayor Weir,
Yes.
I move to approve the reports and recommendations of the city manager.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I would like to pull Resolution 19708 and 19709. Are there any other items that council wishes to pull for separate consideration?
19710.
Number 3, ma'am.
Okay, any others? Okay, Madam City Clerk, will you please call the roll on the consent agenda minus resolutions 19708, 19709, 19710, and item number 3.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Dougherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, consent agenda passes. Mr. City Manager, Resolution 19708, very timely issue in the state of Missouri is dealing with business licenses and activities relating to medical marijuana. I would just like for, since this is sort of an issue that's very unsettled right now in the state of Missouri, an explanation of what this resolution would be doing.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, this past year, the last election that we had, through the initiative petition process, the voters of the state of Missouri passed Amendment 2, which is bringing forward legalization of medical marijuana. Typically, something of this nature would probably have been passed through the legislative process at the Missouri General Assembly, where rules would have been promulgated, directives given to the associated state agency to come up with the process around this new industry, this regulated industry. Being that this came to us through the initiative petition process, that particular process has not yet unfolded. The state of Missouri, the Department of Health and Senior Services, is busy working on setting up the state rules and regulations around this new industry, but at this time we don't have those. However, as one might anticipate, there is a great deal of interest from private sector who's interested in getting in on this business, and we as city staff are receiving a great number of calls from folks wanting to know, are we taking applications, what are the rules going to be, things of that nature. So what we're asking for the council tonight, really to help us with our customer-oriented outcome, is to really go ahead and formalize that we're putting a moratorium in place right now on taking any applications pending the state of Missouri coming forward with those promulgation of rules. We just think it's going to help us communicate better with the public. This is something that your peers in Blue Springs recently passed at their city council meeting, and this will kind of give us some consistency with our neighboring jurisdictions and just help us communicate better with the public.
Okay, thank you very much. I would move for approval of 19708.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Dougherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Weir.
Yes, resolution passes. 19709 is a resolution amending the administrative travel policy for the City of Independence to include a section regarding the approval and review of City Council and Council-appointed staff travel expenses. Mr. City Manager, I'd like to ask management analyst who prepared the review to come forward. I have some questions regarding the proposed changes and new policies regarding travel, which is my understanding and reading is applicable to mayor, city council, and the mayor and city council's appointed staff, which would include the city manager, the management analyst, and the city clerk. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I think that there's some excellent things in this audit about how to consistently report the travel of the council, the mayor of the council, and our appointed staff. I mean, I think that it was pointed out through the committee that it's been very inconsistent and rather haphazard in how these are reported. I noted in the listing of the travel that was accounted for. I mean, there's clearly a lot that is not included here. I mean, certainly other council members have traveled with the city. Whether or not they incurred any expense to the city to do it is maybe they did not, but this is not a complete listing of all of the travel that took place over the last 4 years. Is that is that accurate to say?
That's basically accurate, yeah. This was I requested the information based on requests for leave of absences,
Okay.
which is, as staff, that's how we request travel and getting those expenses reimbursed. So that's the process I followed for out-of-state travel by council. So those are the trips that are included in this. As the mayor said, there may be trips here and there that didn't go through that process, didn't cost the city any money, but a council member may have traveled.
Okay. And so then when there are open records requests made, the information isn't necessarily complete about all of the council travel because the documentation has not been consistent or has been rather haphazard.
That is correct. That's part of the findings of this report, is just that with inconsistent application of the rules, some of the trips may have fallen through the cracks and didn't have these requests for leave of absence forms filled out.
Okay. My other concerns about this, that I think does need to be clarified. There needs to be a consistent process. If a council member, a member of our staff is traveling, whether or not that travel is incurring any expense to the city, it needs to be documented consistently. So I do think that that's a good recommendation in this proposal. I think it's impractical in many cases for the council to have to require approval from the entire council to travel. For example, yesterday we were notified that there's a committee hearing in Jefferson City that we have been asked to come and testify on an item that's of great importance to the city. The committee hearing is scheduled for noon. That it doesn't mean that's going to happen at noon. It may require overnight stay. So how did the audit committee contemplate if something like that comes up when you're called away that might require overnight travel? How would that be dealt with?
I would hesitate to characterize how the committee discussed these things, but to my recollection, this was in an effort to be more transparent and to make sure that these types of approvals were noted by other council members as well as this public. So maybe there's a member of the committee who would be willing to characterize if that came up, but I don't recall that specifically coming up.
I don't recall anything specific in case of emergencies. I believe what the mayor's talking about is an emergency Senate hearing for tomorrow with a pending snowstorm that could be another snow apocalypse, which may hinder the drive home, therefore creating that overnight stay, which I think, given an act of God and the what the expense was, and move on from there. I don't think that would have to be a in-depth problem using that as an example. If you had maybe more expanded idea of what
that's a recent example, but often when Senate committee hearings or House committee hearings are taking place, we have very little notice that those are going to take place. We've traveled, we've gone down and testify and spent 8 hours in testimony and may require an overnight stay or an early morning committee meeting where you would go down the night prior and spend the night in order to be at a committee hearing at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So, just in terms of practicality, I don't know how in this, what's being proposed, how that would be handled, how you would gain that council approval for that overnight travel. So, that's just, something that I think needs further consideration. There is also, we belong currently and in the past and potentially in the future to a number of organizations that hold trainings and conferences, leadership exchanges, meetings that take us out of town. as is documented in the report, I primarily have been the representative to attend those meetings with the Missouri Municipal League, National League of Cities, United States Conference of Mayors, our own Chamber of Commerce and the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce, our Economic Development Council. So one of the things that is outlined in the report is that the council as a whole would deem the value of that travel. And as most of the council members have not participated in those conferences or trainings or meetings, I don't know how they would deem if they are valuable to attend or not. So I would like to see us include those as, these are organizations that we belong to that come with certain expectations and responsibilities that we will participate in these events, the annual loggers conference that I know that you have attended for us. I would see that those would be things that the council, I would be less comfortable with the council deciding who can go, if they can go, but include those as these are part of our obligations. I was recently appointed to a national advocacy committee for the National League of Cities, and part of that is I am required, I have some mandatory meetings that I am required to attend as an appointee to that committee, and according to this policy, this would allow the council as a whole to deny my request to attend those meetings. So I see that as a potential conflict. As far as our council appointees, the city manager is a member of the International City Managers Association. He is in his contract is entitled for the city to pay his dues to belong to that organization, if I'm correct, and also to attend their conference. And this policy would mean that we would have to separately approve his participation in the annual ICMA conference. So I think there are many things in here, and even in the 2015 policies, that I think really need to be modernized and updated. I mean, rules were, in reference to long distance telephone calls. I mean, I don't think people are making long distance telephone calls from their hotel rooms any longer. And, I think it does definitely bear some further discussion. And I just don't know that I think that it adequately covers what our obligation is to the public, to be as transparent as we can and still allow those of us who do participate in these conferences, meetings, and trainings to be assured that we are going to be, that we can commit to participating in those events. So it would be my recommendation to postpone this, send this back to you and to the committee to answer some of these questions and bring back an amended report for us to consider. So that is my motion.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I certainly agree with the intent. It should be applicable from the city manager down to the dog catcher. It should go encompass every department, any type of travel. I think that would be good. I think the ordinance as it's written needs some improvement. It's certainly in the right direction with the right spirit. We do need to have some way, if we have something to come up, that we don't have to call a special council meeting to go to a conference in Kansas City or Jefferson City or wherever, or pay a fee to attend a conference. So I think that's problematic. They could maybe iron that issue out a little bit. So I do think it's the right thing. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. Let's get all the little quirks out of it and get it where it really works well. So I'd support sending it back, had a couple little wrinkles ironed out of it, and then bring it back out.
Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. I would ask my esteemed colleagues, if you have any thoughts or ideas, give it back to us. I don't have a problem remanding this back to staff and to the Audit Finance Committee that myself and Karen and Scott sit on. If you have any further thoughts or concerns, please let us know so we can start moving and hammering out some policies. I think that is something that's duly needed, and I'd like to move forward on that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councilman?
Thanks. As a member of the committee, I don't recall that we ever really discussed any emergency type of approval, and that is problematic, like you said. If there's things that come up in Jeff City that, you know, committees need someone to go down and testify at, and an overnight stay, meals, all those travel expenses are part of the city's expenses. So I think when we discussed it in committee, we originally were just thinking of, number one, making sure that any planned travel ahead of time was transparent so the public knew it. There wasn't really going to be any formal approval at City Council, but when the issue then was approved by the council, if there were any questions, or let's say somebody wanted to add to a testimony that was going to happen in Jeff City, or a point was going to be made, you know, that type of information could be brought out at a public meeting, and if anything was brought back to us, that also could be reported in a public forum. So it was just an accountability thing. There was no, in my mind, when we discussed it, and the other two can confirm this, there was no formal approval. It was simply on the agenda that this was going to be happening, and that we needed representatives at conferences and committee meetings and that sort of thing. So I don't think there was any big formal discussion or anything of the travel. It was just to inform everyone, and then if somebody had questions, they could raise it at that point. Otherwise, it was like part of the consent agenda. So, but I'm happy for us to discuss it again, and it might not be a bad idea to have it at a study session, too.
Well, the recommendation states City Council as a whole approves all travel requests made by a City Council member or council-appointed staff at a City Council meeting.
Yeah, and I would think it would be part of the consent agenda, and then if anybody wanted to pull it and had any questions, they could, but otherwise, is that your understanding, Councilmember Perkins and DeLucy? Yes. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I can also see in the future where that can become very political. Imagine that in this town here. I mean, there's points taken on both ends, and we can review it and definitely discuss and have dialogue on it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Huff?
Yes.
Perkins?
Yes.
Dougherty?
Yes.
DeLucy?
No.
Robertson?
Yes.
Van Camp?
Yes.
Mayor Weir?
Yes. Motion passes. Councilmember DeLucy, 19710.
Mr. City Manager. Mr. City Manager, this regards the new City of Independence brand, and I know we're talking about phasing it in. I'm curious on when will we use this new brand? When would we use the old wagon with ox? What is the cost that we're looking at to promote this new brand? Things of that nature.
Sure. Let me start with the cost question, because that is something that we'd still be working through as part of our budget development process for the coming fiscal year. So the budget that we would submit to the council in May would certainly, upon the approval of this tonight by the council, would contemplate that and begin to have to phase that in. Now we do have, we budgeted last year for both the brand development and then also implementation. So there's some funding left over to begin to do some rollout of that. The city seal, which is the emblem you were describing that folks are familiar with as the oxen and the wagon and such, that would continue to be utilized on many of our official documents, our official correspondence. The brand would be more applicable, like what you'd see maybe on a city vehicle, or maybe the front doors of City Hall, or some of the wayfinding signage that's around the historic district, things of that nature. That's probably going to have to be phased in over time. You know, I recall a few years ago when I was still the management analyst, I believe wayfinding signage was in excess of 6 figures. So that's something that's going to have to be developed and implemented over time, whereas business cards, logos for emblems for vehicles, things of that nature. But what we're really trying to do is address that when it makes sense. So when we're doing fleet replacement, when we're doing business card orderings, things of that nature, so that the cost that we'd be spending anyways, it's just a matter of switching out the template of what we're using.
And the money to pay for it?
Right. So that's going to have to be budgeted, and I just don't have a number for you tonight of every nook and cranny of where we would be implementing and utilizing this. That's something that I've challenged our communication staff to come up with as part of budget development for this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Move approval of 19-710.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Dougherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
No.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
No.
Mayor Ware.
Yes, resolution passes. Councilmember Perkins, item number 3.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item is a third phase of the Inglewood Arts Streetscape Improvement. We are going to be doing sidewalks, curbs, enhancements in between the south side of Winter Road to Appleton. This is a long time coming. We've had the north side already enhanced. We're going to do the south side now. This project is a reimbursement cost, so we will get 80% of our funds back. This is just another step, making Inglewood a little bit better. The process has been going on for a little bit longer. I do have a concern, Mr. City Manager, since we do own the CMH building now currently. Our future plans is at some point to develop that building. We are now going to be putting new sidewalks in front of that building, and from my information here, the contract provides for construction completion within 120 days. So my concern is long-term goal. Sidewalks are in, we have redevelopment agreement with somebody. They decided to build or do whatever they're doing and damaging those new sidewalks. Is there any guarantee or any hope that that will not take place?
Good question. We certainly want to do our development in a way that we get the longevity and the value out of it. I would ask our Director of Public Works, Tim Gramling, to come talk to you real quick about the project timeline here and how it might sync up with exactly what you're speaking to.
Sure.
Good evening, Council. Tim Gramling, Public Works Director. As you noticed, it does say that there's a 120 working day contract. It will, from approval tonight, it usually takes us about within 30 days to get to notice to proceed with the contractor, and then we'll have a meeting with them, and then there'll be some time after that. Usually they're not ready to go right away. It may be another, could be another 30 days before they're actually underway. So you can add another, 45 to 60 days to that 120 that it would be that we would be working on the project. Now, if something did come up during this time where we think there's going to be something happening, we can certainly have the contractor work with the developer and maybe delay some work or something like that, or work around, something that any plans that somebody may have. But, without knowing what may happen, it's kind of hard to say, how it may be impacted at this time.
Sure. I understand. I just would hate to damage something new that we have going on there with sidewalks.
Yeah, but if we get any kind of idea at all what may happen, I mean, we can always have our contractor work around that, or do whatever we may need to do if we can anticipate what that is. Yes.
Sure.
So,
okay.
And we can, there may be some things we can look at too that, some of the most common things that could happen as far as if they have to do any kind of improvement to any kind of electrical or any kind of infrastructure that may be under or near the sidewalk, maybe we can kind of take care of some of that stuff and get it out of the way along with this project, if it's easy enough to do. Okay. So yeah, we can try to mitigate that as much as we can.
Well, thank you. I sure appreciate that. And, go ahead.
All right.
Ann is our EBA president, and she's here for another item. Ann, don't leave, 'cause I have some information to give you about this. To let you know, I know you're back in town now, and I see you. Thank goodness. Yeah, long time coming, so
And we
don't
have
leave
been-
before I give you that.
Yeah, we have been working closely with the Business Association there and keeping them, informed along the way as the project's been developing, so.
Yeah, great.
I just, it is exciting. I mean, then, the Englewood community has always been really proactive of working with the city to, move these projects forward and worked with us on applying for grants. And we've been really successful in getting grant funding for these projects. And this may be, Mr. City Manager, more of a community development question, but this is phase 3 of the project. And as Councilman said, one side of the street is done and looks beautiful. So now we're moving to the other side of the street. Are there additional, will this, essentially complete the streetscaping in Englewood, or are there future phases that are planned for that we would still be seeking funding? I know there was, a traffic study done, a circulation study done at the node of Northern and Winter and whatever that is, comes together there. But, over the years, we've done a number of projects over there, and I'm just curious as to, are there still projects out there that were funded and are coming forward, or that we're continuing to see funding for to kind of, finish off? This isn't a big area, and if, we could probably get it finished off.
Oh, somewhat exciting. This is the last of the phases that was planned as part of that project, and would cap that off. Now, of course, the Downtown Redevelopment Coordinating Committee has envisioned connectivity through trails and other infrastructure, but as far as the original projects that were planned there, this would be the capping off of that.
Okay, excellent.
And I will add that the Truman Connect project, which will be bringing that trail, will kind of tie into this and touch this on the Sterling end of that, so, there'll be some
But
enhancements
the
there.
physical infrastructure just in the Englewood Arts District,
Yeah,
this
there's
will
nothing-
finish that off.
Yep.
For what we've
Right.
envisioned so far. There may be more to come, right?
We have a roundabout vision. We just need to plug in an extra $1 million, Mr. City Manager,
Right,
for that.
exactly. Mhm.
Just $1 million.
Okay.
I move for approval of item number 3, please.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins,
Yes.
Dougherty,
Yes.
DeLucy,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Van Camp,
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Item passes. We do have one non-ordinance action item this evening. Marlene Nagel from the American Regional Council was scheduled to be here tonight to give us a little presentation on this, on the National Historic Trail Strategic Concept Plan. Due to the impending weather, she was not able to join us this evening. Mr. Randall, I don't know if you want to say a few. This is an exciting project. I'm sorry she's not here to give us more details about it, but speaking of the Truman Trails and our connectivity, this is a big step
Right.
regarding that. So.
Right, thank you, Mayor. Mark Randall, Assistant City Manager. I don't want to steal too much thunder because Marlene's going to be back a week from today. She's going to be, or a week from Monday. She's going to be here next Monday at the study session to make that presentation on that supports this resolution. But basically what it is the National Park Service doing a historic retracement program, and it's a plan that is to be used in conjunction with the Metro Green Plan so that when local governments that are affected by the historic trails do trail projects in their communities, they'll take this into account. Doesn't mean you have to follow it exactly, because it does have caveats in there that where modern conditions may have affected it somewhat, so you might have to be near the exact retracement of a trail segment rather than right on it. You might be near it. So it's to be used with a little bit of common sense, but it's really exciting idea to promote the community in another way by, and what community would be more likely than Independence to try to leverage that historic trail history in a new way, and that's what this does. So as Tim mentioned just a few minutes ago, we're looking to do the Truman Connect Trail that they've talked about, which would go from the Truman Library through the square, past the Truman Courthouse, down past the Truman Depot, down by the Trails Museum, and all the way to Inglewood. And then it would go from there, would go down eventually to down Sterling to 40 Highway to eventually go to the Truman Sports Complex. So it would be the Truman Trail in many respects, connecting all these Truman-named facilities. But part of that also will be retracing historic trails through the square and through all the way from north, from the Missouri River all the way down through the community and to down to continuing through the metro area. So it's going to be really a fantastic thing. And so next Monday night we'll have a presentation about how the historic retracement initiative will help us with our modern trail planning in Independence.
Okay,
So,
thank
okay.
you. Well, we look
Thank you.
forward to Marlene's presentation, but we'll go ahead and read this. We're going to go ahead with the resolution this evening. Madam City Clerk?
I have a motion to approve.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we do need a motion.
I move to approve the resolution.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Huff,
Yes.
Perkins.
Yes.
Dougherty.
Yes.
DeLucy.
Yes.
Robertson.
Yes.
Van Camp.
Yes.
Mayor Ware.
Yes. Item passes. This takes us to our first readings.
These next bills will receive their first reading tonight and their second reading at the next regularly scheduled meeting. Bill number 19-013, an ordinance amending City of Independence Power and Light Department schedules of electric rates to include an electric vehicle charge rate schedule, EV1, beginning March 1st, 2019, under which electric utility service shall be furnished to all customers of Independence Power and Light at its public charging stations.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I have a couple questions
Okay.
about this one, and I thought this is the best time at the first reading.
Okay.
So in the background material, this was not answered. I wondered what rates are being charged by KCP&L, which has hundreds of these charging stations. I know we only have a couple, but I don't want us to be above the rates that KCP&L are charging. The second question is, we also have some Tesla charging stations, and I know Tesla pays for that themselves because if you have a Tesla, you can charge free. But Tesla is paying a rate to Independence Power and Light for those charging stations. I'd like to know what Tesla is paying. So those two questions: what is KCP&L charging for their charging stations, and what are we charging Tesla for theirs?
Hi, Mark Randall, Assistant City Manager again. I can answer at least the first one. This is the same rate that KCP&L is charging
Same rate.
for their charge point chargers, which is what these are. This only affects the two that we currently have,
Right.
but we're going to be doing more of them.
Right.
And you remember some time ago, the council directed that we begin implementing charging for those chargers, because when we started out, just as KCP&L, when they did theirs, and they did 1,000 of them in the metro area, they started off where there were no cost to the user to try to get this kind of started. But at a certain point, it switches over to a pay model, and the council directed us a while back to go do that. So IPL staff has researched it, and they've come up with this addition to the rate schedule, and it's the same as KCP&L. I really can't speak to what Tesla's rates are, and the reason why I'm standing up here instead of Brenda is I told Brenda I would go ahead and our new general manager, that I would go ahead and since we got this one in the pipeline, just kind of finish this one up. But in case she happens to know, she probably doesn't know what Tesla charges. I wouldn't think. No, I don't think we know that. But we'll try to get that for you.
Perhaps
But,
before the second reading?
We'll do that.
Okay.
We'll do that.
That's 2 weeks.
Madam Mayor, Mark, before you leave there, I have some concerns about that too. I did see where KCP&L is paying 20 cents also, but I also went a little further and looked at the national average, and it's about 11 cents. With that, we bought 10 electric cars, and we're promoting that, and I think we need to be getting that a little bit lower. I'm worried about these rates. Once again, I wanted to see how they come up with this 20 cents, or are we just modeling after KCP&L, or if we actually did some work to figure that out.
Right, okay, well, we'll get that for you too, and for the next reading, we'll try to have some sort of rationale of where we got that rate. And again, these are only affecting those smart chargers we have. We only have a couple of them right now. Those, what we call the dumb chargers, which are the kind that you can't put a card in to charge, and they're only for the city's own electric vehicles that you mentioned. So those have been installed. That's billed a different way, you know, to the city. But this is for the public chargers. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, my turn. I'm being the only one that owns an electric car, totally electric car.
Right.
Totally electric. I pay a rate at home. Why isn't that rate the same? I'm a resident of Independence, and I charge my car at home, which gives, my understanding, another household.
Yes.
Residential, because you're charging off-peak.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I be allowed to be out somewhere in Independence and get the same rate?
Well, I'd say that, and of course, the council is the governing body of our electric utility, so the rates that are established are by you. So we can do whatever you want to do on this, but I think the rationale on that is that when you hook it up to home, and that's where you're charging from home, you're paying it through in that way. That is the way that our own dumb chargers are are charging our own electric vehicles. This though are public chargers, which come at a cost to install. So basically, what you're trying to do is recover the cost of installation of these chargers through through a user charge. And as you said, perhaps
I too received a cost for putting in my charger. A substantial cost.
Right. Well, again,
it wasn't that the city paid for it for me.
Right.
I paid to have it put in.
Right.
To recover my cost on that.
Right. But this case, again, was a council direction to come up with a user fee to cover the costs of not only installation of the chargers, but also for the cost of electricity. So at some point it's going to be run out? So
no, I mean, then you can reduce it?
Well, the council, the way I got your direction from the prior, when you made the direction for us to come up with an electric rate for these chargers, you did not indicate that it was for a temporary period of time. You indicated that this would be an ongoing charge for anyone using the public chargers.
What you're doing is, what you're telling me is that you have this rate, and I guess the study, to augment or get back, recoup what it costs to put out the charging stations.
Well, again, I would go back to the council's direction, and I think, you know, I would say that the council's motivation in directing that, as I took it, was to cover the cost of electricity and to cover the installation of those chargers that were done some time ago.
What we're trying to do is promote greener. I mean, we want to
Correct.
be a green city. And I've tried to purchase another car, and the dealerships will not allow a new car to be purchased anywhere and brought here and sold at these dealerships. Some dealerships, in particular in one, I don't want to give any credit to one and not the other, because we bought from a local establishment here. But if you're going to motivate the city, I don't think that, you know, that the rate should be higher than what they pay to, and they have to pay to install their chargers. Should be higher, if you could look into it.
Oh, we'll do that. Absolutely will.
Okay. Anything else?
Bill number 19-014, an ordinance amending the zoning district map as to a tract of ground located at 19301 East Salisbury Road from District R6 Single Family Residential to District RA Residential Agricultural in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri. Bill number 19-015, an ordinance authorizing a contract with the Inglewood Business Association for a license of the public area of the Inglewood Station Arts District and vicinity in connection with certain promotional events scheduled in 2019. Bill number 19-016, an ordinance vacating a portion of 2 utility easements located within Lot 77, Valley Brook 4th Plat, and Lot 33, Valley Brook 1st Plat, lots 1 through 33, in resurvey of the Hidden Valley Acres, lots 23-24, a subdivision in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri, also known as 17909 East Hidden Valley Road and 18001 East 31st Terrace.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councilman.
I also have a question on this ordinance.
Okay.
So this is in my district. I have been out to close to this location. I was trying to look at it on the map. I have not actually driven out there because of extenuating circumstances, but this particular area I've been out to at least twice in the past year or two for flooding. The creek behind it gets stopped up. There's nobody responsible to clear that creek. Some of those houses and backyards are flooded. And so my question is there a flooding issue for this property? And number two, there's sewer lines, city sewers that run through here. Is there an issue, or has there been an issue with water pollution control? So perhaps between now and the second reading, we could find out those issues.
Yeah, we'd be happy to use the next 2 weeks to get those
I know
answers.
there's been flooding out there.
Certainly, yeah, we'll get that prepared and distributed to the full council.
It's just a little downstream that we did a major project with WPC, I think in the last year.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bill number 19-017, an ordinance authorizing approval of a purchase order with Traffic Control Corporation for the purchase of traffic signal controllers for the Independence Operation Green Light Controller Project, number 701-10704, for an amount not to exceed $118,990, and making project appropriations.
Okay, thank you very much. We have no second readings this evening. So this takes us to council member comments. I will start on my left with Councilman Van Camp.
Yes, Madam Mayor. We had a utility board meeting today, and our finance people attended and recommended that we go ahead with the 90-day. They thought it was wonderful, and they said all kinds of great things about how we got to the meat of the matter in that committee. And I just wanted, that we're getting an attaboy from those people. And we've been waiting a long time, and we made some recommendations for Blue Valley to be closed. And it's something near and dear to my heart, and we're going to be moving on that and have something on that soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Roberson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to thank the council and the citizens for being patient with me. I just returned from a medical dental eye mission trip to Jamaica over the last week of January, first part of February, so this is my first council meeting back, and I missed the last one. That was the night, actually, that I got home. Fortunately, this was my 7th year with this group, mainly from St. Joe, Missouri. 32 of us went. We treated over 2,500 patients. We did a lot of good down there for folks that could not afford any of that care down in the south of Jamaica. So thanks for your patience with me.
Thank you. Councilmember DeLucy.
Mr. City Manager, are you going to make my dream come true? Am I going to have an online calendar soon?
Yes.
When is that going to happen, sir?
We are working, communications division, with the very kind, helpful assistance of the clerk's office to make sure we understand all the different events that are out there so we don't miss any of the important ones, and we will get that activated very soon. I will try to have an exact date for you at our next council meeting, but I know conversations have been going on about that. They accelerated after your comments last week, and we're moving forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Anything else?
No.
Councilmember Dougherty.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilmember Perkins.
Thank you, Mayor. With this new possible snow event, haven't looked outside since I got in here, don't know what it's doing, but I want to give a big shout out, Tim, or you're listening to, or your crews out there who've been working their fannies off, politically correctness here. out there with these back-to-back snow events out there plowing and doing what they do. And it's long hours. It's just not the people that you see in those trucks. It's the support staff that's behind them, the dispatchers and all that are staying away from their homes, their families, events that's been scheduled out. It's hard to schedule around winter time. But anyway, big shout out and thank you for all the hard work you guys are doing over there.
Councilman Huff?
Nothing this evening.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Perkins. These poor people are just worn out, I know. And I asked the city manager a couple days ago, I'm like, how many people we have on these crews? And I don't know, 60? I mean,
About 45.
Yeah, 45. I mean, it's a lot of people. And they're really testing the limits. So hopefully we're going to see the end of winter pretty soon. I did want to let the council know that the Kansas City Metro Mayor's Caucus, which, as the name implies, is a group of Kansas City area mayors, is holding a meeting with our legislators on Friday at 12 o'clock. It'll be held at Midwest Public Risk here in Independence. You're welcome to attend. We generally get a very good turnout from state representatives and state senators and other representatives from other organizations to come and talk about, learn about important issues that are happening in Jefferson City. On the agenda for Friday is medical marijuana regulation and the local use tax. So it'll be at noon on Friday at Midwest Public Risk if you'd like to come and attend. I finally did my State of the City last week. After some rescheduling, I wanted to thank everybody who was able to come and those who may have watched online or on Facebook Live. A special thank you to City House for hosting. It turned out to be a great venue for the event. They're doing some great things in our city, and I hope those of you who weren't able to come out, it was still, a cold evening. We'll take the time to watch that on our city website and learn about what we have planned for the upcoming year. In regard to the charging stations, I think there's a lot of interesting ways that we can go with these charging stations. I understand. Really, Councilman Van Camp, I mean, you are correct that we are trying to motivate people to participate in these greener technologies. And I think probably the best way to do that in the long run is to develop some sort of program to incentivize people to install charging stations at home. Nobody's going to buy a car and rely on public charging stations to keep their car charged. And as the councilman has said, I mean, it's a expense. And I think that's something that we can really look to in the future is if people are really going to invest in these electric vehicles, helping them with that expense of charging them at home is good for us and good for the consumer. So I think that's something that we should take a look at. Finally, Mr. Love, who is here again this evening, Mr. City Manager, I got just a very brief update from our city staff on the action that we have taken regarding the issues that he's brought forward. I know that they have not come to resolution, but if you would please provide the council with an update on the status of these issues so that we can be better informed about what action has been taken, what action can be taken, and what further action could be taken to resolve these issues. He's correct. When we adopted the rental ready, we did so because we identified that landlords are business people and need to be subject to the same rules as other businesses in town. So I would like an update on these particular issues. And then, I think just a continual, I know this is not easy. I mean, we're tracking down hundreds of individuals, which is difficult to do, especially when, unlike a business, you can't go and knock on their door. But I think, the point is well taken that we need to understand how we're going to continue to improve this program and regulate it. I think that's all I have for this evening. Do you have anything else tonight?
I would just like to remind and invite the council this Friday evening. We are having our first employee service recognition dinner for those city employees who have 20 years or more of service on behalf of the City of Independence. So that will be this Friday evening at the Independence Uptown Market. That was actually an idea that came forward from a group of city employees that we call our Employee Engagement Committee, and we're excited to give that a first trial run this year. So join us if you're able to. Thank you.
Okay, we're adjourned.
It doesn't pay for it, but it pays for parking.